iOS 26 is now out for everyone, and there are a ton of new features to try. And I'm about to run down the top 10 biggest features you should try as soon as your iPhone updates. With tons of new features in Messages, really fun customizations for your lock and home screen, Visual Intelligence got some big updates, Apple Music with Auto Mix, new AirPods features like pause when you fall asleep, new features in Apple Podcasts, and more. But let's start here, the lock screen. When you tap and hold on your lock screen, you have the option to create multiple, and I'll show you that in a second, but you can customize it, adding those lock screen widgets like you could before, but now you can change the size of that clock to massive. And depending how big you make it, the lock screen widgets might move all the way down. You could play around with the fonts and colors, but what's really cool is your iPhone will now layer that clock underneath certain photos. So on this lock screen, I actually chose to customize it with some depth effect, and that will actually layer the clock behind the ocean here. Play around with different photos you might have with subjects, and you can get some fun looks. One of my favorite things to do is actually create a spatial scene. You can choose a photo of your own, and when you go to customize it, there's a little symbol right here, which is called Spatial Scene. It'll do this for photos you've already taken, change the clock size to kind of lay behind the subjects. And now when you hold your phone, you'll actually get this really cool 3D effect that separates both the subject from the background and even the clock. Try it around with different photos or even have photos rotate, and sometimes you get a really wild depth effect, almost feels like you're looking into your phone display. If you want, you can always add another lock screen by swiping to the right, tapping New. You can see there's already recommendations for spatial scenes here. It already put the clock behind the subjects, and it has that 3D depth effect. Really fun. Choose to set it as your wallpaper pair, and you can have that change with focus mode or manually change it by swiping through. And there's even more features when you want to customize your home screen. Now, as you can see, Liquid Glass is a big iOS 26 feature, and when you tap Edit here on the home screen, go to Customize, and here you can choose between the default colors for apps. You can choose whether you want small size apps, which will display the name, or you can enlarge them, so it'll hide that. You can go for the dark effect or change whether you're automatically in light or dark mode. And there's the clear icons, both light and dark. Just tap the little sun icon here. You can see you can actually brighten or dim the glass icons, and you can choose between light or dark home screen icons here, or have it change with your phone's dark and light setting. There's also a tint feature, which not only can you choose a color and a brightness which you want to tint, but you can choose the little eyedropper and then choose a color that's here on your wallpaper. You can manually choose the tint, or even choose to tint them to match your iPhone color, or if you use an Apple MagSafe case, it can tint to the case. I'm using my own custom green leather case from Ondar for my iPhone, which is also available for 17 Pro and Pro Max. Get those at beard.fm/case, but there's lots more options for color and customization. Typically, I still use the default colors, but we'll leave it clear for now. Next, let's jump into Messages because there are a ton of new features here. First of all, the search bar is now at the bottom for easier access, and you're going to get Liquid Glass effects and animations throughout Messages. By the way, I did an entire iOS 26 full review with all the Liquid design and feature changes. You can check out my review up here. Or if you want to see every single new feature, I did a video running down 100 plus new features in iOS 26. That video is also here and down in the description. And the first thing you'll notice is you can set wallpapers per conversation. That's for single conversations, one-on-one, or in group messages. And if you tap someone's name here at the top, you'll see there's a brand new view for conversations. There's actually tabs where you can navigate to photos that have been sent back and forth, different links, locations you might have sent each other, and even documents or attachments. If you go to the backgrounds, you can choose one of the stock backgrounds, a suggestion, one of your own photos, or even use image playgrounds to generate a background from whatever you'd like. I can choose Prairie and then maybe prompt it with another text, or choose one of the other suggestions down here, and this will generate a wallpaper for my message automatically. Tap the blue check mark, and now that's going to be set for the background of our messages. And here we are in the Prairie. You can also swipe back and forth, choosing between different tones and color options. There's even a wash setting, which then you can choose a further color if you want to wash the entire conversation. Let's go with that one. And again, you could do this for group messages or individual. Personally, I like the Aurora look, or we can go to water. Yeah, let's stay underwater for now. Another great option in text messages is if you have a huge text message bubble and you want to copy and paste some text within that, you don't have to select the whole message anymore. You can choose Select when you tap and hold on a message, and then you can drag the in and out little handles here, and you can copy exactly the portion you want from the message. You can also send polls. This will be especially helpful in group messages if you're trying to figure out where to eat or what time to leave. You can even send polls just in one-on-one text messages. You might get a lot of ties that way though. Also, you're going to find translation features in more and more places around iOS 26. Oh, there was just a vote for tacos in my poll. And if I get text messages in another language, I can tell the Messages app to automatically translate them as soon as they come in. You can see here it's translating from Spanish, and this works with multiple languages. You can have it translate automatically or just translate per message manually. There's also much better filtering options where you'll see transactions in its own place here in Messages, plus better spam recognition. When you mark a conversation or send her a spam, that's actually going to go help Apple train models to reduce spam across all iPhones, privately and securely. You'll even have message drafts, and you can even go here to further unknown senders, which will actually work across Messages, phone calls, and FaceTime. Also, a lot more features are coming to group messages, things like being able to send Apple Cash to an individual recipient here in a group. I can choose a person right here and only send it to them. Or if you were splitting a dinner bill, everyone can send you something here in the group. And you'll also get that ellipses when someone is now typing in a group. Next up, there's been big updates to visual intelligence. When you take a screenshot now, you'll get more tools, not only just the screenshot markup tools, but you'll see highlight to search, and you can do a reverse Google image search anywhere. Here I can circle an object, and then you'll see the option to look it up in Google or Alex. To be honest, I'm not exactly sure what that does, but you can do a reverse Google image search for an object. Maybe you see a bag or find out where someone got an accessory. The reverse Google image search will tell you where you can find it, and you can also ask ChatGPT about the image using this bubble here. You do need Apple Intelligence on your phone for these visual intelligence features to work. Visual intelligence can also auto-detect dates from a screenshot. So something like this, where you might see an image on social media, but you can't actually tap the date because it's not plain text. I can actually crop this image to the date that I want, and you'll see I actually have the ability to add a date to my calendar because it's in the screenshot. I can easily edit or create the event right from there. You can even translate from screenshots using visual intelligence, and if you took a picture or used visual intelligence to capture some plain text, let's say it's a physical article or maybe a book page, now when I take a screenshot, visual intelligence is actually going to offer to summarize the text that it detects on screen. Again, you could do this with a photo by holding the visual intelligence button on the side, or just take a screenshot of an image. Next, Apple Music gets some huge updates. Not only is there the liquid glass redesign, which you really notice on the bottom under the mini player and search bar, but a lot of popular albums now have full screen lock screen artwork. So once I start playing a song, I can swipe down from the lock screen, and you're going to see that full animated artwork taking over the entire display. I can tap it and it will shrink down to that mini player on the lock screen, or if you see this, just tap the image right here and it will take over the lock screen again. If you're listening to songs in other languages, Apple Music, just like Messages, now offers in-lyric translation. You'll see them right under the actual lyrics here in the lyric view. But one of the best new features of Apple Music is actually something called Auto Mix. Go to your settings, use the search bar at the bottom, which it's actually moved to the bottom for a lot of different apps, but you can search for the music app here. It's usually the quickest way to get there. Go down to Song Transitions, and here you can enable Auto Mix, and you'll actually hear Apple Music mixing the two songs while one is ending and the next one is beginning. It's actually really cool. Definitely try it out. And while you're here in settings, some of the other powerful features are actually for the phone app. Search for phone down here, and when you scroll down, you're going to see new and additional options for call screening. For instance, you could say when it's an unknown number or unknown caller, ask the reason for calling. So unknown callers will actually get an automated message to leave their name and why they're calling. You'll see that here either in a live activity or on your lock screen, and then it will ring your phone and you can choose whether or not to pick it up. And not right now, I'm making another video. You can also choose to silence unknown callers here, and you get more call filtering options here. You also get something called Hold Assist. So when your iPhone detects that you're being put on hold, you don't have to sit there and listen to it. It will send you a notification when it's time to pick up. One last phone feature, it is now even easier to make ringtones on your phone. You can even do something like record a voice memo using the built-in voice memo app, record yourself saying something, "Oh yeah!" And now you can either share directly from voice memos or any audio file that you might have in the Files app on your iPhone. Just tap the share button, and if you scroll down, you'll see the option to use it as a ringtone right now. You don't have to do any weird GarageBand workaround or sync a file with Apple Music. Oh yeah! Now that's your ringtone. Next, if you do a lot of content creation on your phone, maybe you're using USB microphones, now you have more control of choosing the audio input when you're recording. This will work in third-party apps and like the built-in camera app. So here I am about to record video. I'm actually going to swipe down to the control center and tap this highlighted green area, because here you'll see the audio input option, and I can choose the USB mic as the default input when I record this video. You'll also see options to use Apple's voice isolation and other effects, but now I know that the microphone I have connected is what's going to be used when I record something. Next, the Apple Podcasts app actually has some great new features. The first is visual. If you listen to a podcast that does custom episode artwork, which I highly recommend you do, like my tech podcast, Primary Technology, any custom episode artwork is going to show full screen or full bleed when you're on the episode page. And there's a nice big player button telling you how many minutes you have left, easy access to bookmark and download, and more. And there's even more features when you start playing an episode, and if you enjoy listening at faster speeds, you can actually go all the way up to 3x, which is pretty wild. You can also choose things like 1.5 or 2x, or just swipe here and you can go from turtle to rabbit, however fast you're wanting to listen. But even more important, there's a new enhanced dialogue feature, so no matter how a podcast is mixed or edited, it will bring the voices forward and help you understand what people are saying. And speaking of listening to podcasts, if you have AirPods, there are a ton of new features now available. Once you connect your AirPods, go over to your settings. You should see the AirPods appear right here up at the top. And one really cool feature is you can use the AirPods as a camera remote. So when you turn this on, press once or press and hold, whatever you want, it will take a photo or start a video recording. That's great, especially if you do a lot of content creation. Plus, it will also detect when you're falling asleep. So if you wear AirPods to sleep, you're listening to podcasts or music, they will actually pause it when it detects you're asleep. Oh, and since we're here in settings, one other thing, there are some great new ringtones. If you want to use the Kool-Aid Man, oh my, that's fine. But go down to Sounds and Haptics, and then go over to Ringtone, and under the Reflection option, there are a bunch of new ringtones here. If you want to hear them all, I did a video on some hidden features of iOS 26. You can watch that video above and down in the description. Personally, I like the Dreamer setting. Also, if you have CarPlay and you still have AirPods in your ear, when you turn on your car, audio will stay in the AirPods, so you don't have that abrupt switch over. And your AirPods will also let you know when the case is running low on battery and when it's time to charge and when they're fully charged. Really helpful notification. And before we get to number 10, there are some welcome redesigns to things like the camera app. It's a much simpler view, quick access to switch between photo and video. You can tap on video again and change some of the modes, or tap on photo and you have access to more settings here. And you can still swipe left and right to access things like spatial, cinematic, or portrait mode. Also, there's much easier access to change formats both for photos and video by tapping there. And if I go over to video mode, you'll see I can change the frame rate and resolution all here from the camera app. And thankfully, the Photos app has been redesigned, so we now have the tabs here at the bottom, and you can tap here and then quickly navigate to Collections or back to the full library. But number 10, and what I'm most excited about, is shortcuts. You already know, with iOS 26, there are brand new shortcuts actions specifically for Apple Intelligence. That means you're not dependent on the ChatGPT app or other third-party apps for things like summarizing, parsing data, and more. And get subscribed because I have a video coming very soon with 20 plus Apple Intelligence specific shortcuts. It's coming in like a couple days, so get subscribed. But just one example, and this is a shortcut that really went viral on TikTok and Instagram Reels, but I created a shortcut that you can run when you're looking at Instagram Reels that uses Apple Intelligence. I know this says uses ChatGPT, but this is actually the Apple Intelligence action. You see here, I can use private cloud compute or even the on-device LLM model if I wanted to. And this is actually going to parse that Instagram post into a recipe and save it to my note app, Bear. Just to show it in action, if I come across a recipe and the person actually put the recipe and steps in the caption, I can just tap the share button or the little paper airplane, tap share to, and then with this redesigned share sheet, I put my real recipe to Bear shortcut right here at the top. And in just a few moments, it's going to pull all this information, format it nicely, and then create a new note in Bear. It was that quickly in real time, broke down the ingredients, the steps, and also puts a link back to the reel if I want to see how they actually made it. I'll put a link to download that real recipe to Bear shortcut using Apple Intelligence in the video description. And again, be on the lookout for the 20 plus Apple Intelligence shortcuts coming very soon. If you want to see my video on the all 100 plus new features in iOS 26, I'll put that video right here. And if you want to see what's new in macOS Tahoe, which also has some incredible new shortcuts and automations like for files and folders, I did a full review of that right up here. Also, if you're really into shortcuts, I actually have an entire community dedicated to shortcuts where I take priority shortcuts requests. I created a shortcuts GPT that helps use API keys and other actions, and a ton more. You can join at create.beard.fm. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.